All right, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning into this video. Today I wanted to discuss realistic and honest perspectives with regard to practice and progress as a musician. In most, media or performances that we see, musicians are portrayed as basically entering like a joyous and rapturous bliss of passionate and highly fluent performance every single time they pick up their instrument, like it's some effortless and immediately accessible activity. But in reality, an enormous amount of hours of practice take place behind the scenes in order to prepare for a performance. And let's face it, most of this practice is pretty mundane and repetitive, and it progresses at a pace that often feels very slow, even if you're putting in some solid time and effort every single day. So if you have the wrong expectations about learning music, it's easy to feel frustrated or disappointed in yourself, or to have unrealistic ideas about how much time is needed to achieve a certain thing. So I will use myself as an example to briefly show what a practice session is like. I will work a bit on the piece Cuba from the suite Española, opus 47 by Albeniz, and this is Manuel Barreco's arrangement of it. So I have looked at the score, but I haven't physically played it yet. So I'll start by playing the first little bit very slowly. Definitely not going to try to play it at full speed today. This is a big chord. Make sure I have it right. Okay, so there's already a lot going on there, so I'm going to try to do that again. Okay, I think I'm getting the notes here. Now I want to think about what my right hand is doing, just to make sure I'm aware of what's going on. Okay, so that worked out well. And I'm going to write down what my right hand did, because if I write something down on the score, then it helps it stick in my brain a lot better. So I want to alternate with my index and middle fingers on these kind of inner voice notes here. And because I'm playing this chord using P, I, and A, that means I want to use my M finger to play the note right before that. So I jotted that down. So now I'll do that again to reinforce this right hand fingering. Okay, let me do that one more time. Okay, now I'm going to play the second measure. Think about the right hand fingering here. Oops. Okay, let me do that again. Okay, so I think what I did again works okay, just alternating index and middle finger on the inner voices. I'm having some issues when I'm releasing the bar chord. I'm kind of rattling it a bit, so I want to try to address that now, what my left hand is doing with the bar chord. Buzz something again. Okay, that's cleaner. So I'm seeing there's a rest notated exactly on the fourth beat of the measure, so I have to be aware of exactly how I'm releasing the pressure off of the bar, or else the F sharp can kind of get a buzzy release. So I'll do that again. Okay, do that again. Oh, still buzzing. Okay, I still feel a bit insecure about this chord shape, so I'm going to keep doing this some more. Nope. Okay, now I have to be aware I keep buzzing the high A, so I got to pay attention to my pinky finger. Somewhat better. Okay, one more time. Okay, I'm starting to feel like my hands are getting the hang of it, so let me do both measures again. Still kind of getting a bit of a buzz releasing the bar. Let me try that again. Okay, that's nice. Let me do that once more. Okay, so that's starting to come along a little bit. But I'll try one more measure. You know, the third and fourth measure just repeat that opening idea again, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the fifth measure. Okay, so that's the left hand fingering. Let me try that again. Okay, now I'm trying to think of the right hand fingering. Be nice if I can alternate. Probably. I like using the index finger here because my thumb is going to be playing the sixth string in the next measure. So I probably want to use the A finger on the first string. Sometimes I have to work backwards in my mind with right hand fingerings to figure it out. Yeah, I think that works. So start the measure going M, high M, and then I use the A finger on the high A's. I'll try that again. Oops, I released my pinky too early. Okay, once more. Okay, I think I like that right hand fingering. Okay, and maybe so I don't bore you all to death, I'll stop there. But clearly I'm not delivering a impassioned, fluent performance of this piece yet. But this is the kind of focus and work that is needed in order to properly understand all the details within a piece of music. And I've been playing guitar for more than 20 years. I have 2 university degrees in music, and I work full-time as a guitar teacher. And still, I have to go through very carefully many methodical details in a very focused and highly repetitive way in order to train myself to be able to play a piece correctly. Generally, it takes at least 3 or 4 practice sessions before I can begin to have any sort of quasi-fluent, somewhat emotionally fulfilling experience while playing a complex piece of music for solo guitar. Some songs or some types of music might be sight readable and easy to learn really quickly or almost immediately, but I'm talking about intricate works for solo classical guitar in this video. And there's no way to rush through this, right? There's no magic shortcuts. I think a lot of new players seriously underestimate the amount of sheer repetition and basically obsessive practicing that is required to develop skills properly. I I don't mean for this to sound daunting or inaccessible, but I hope, for people to feel reassured and motivated in their practice experiences. Like you can say to yourself, like, oh, good, I'm not the only one who has to struggle through difficult passages hundreds of times before I can get it right. Like that's perfectly normal, okay? And like at music school, it's very normal for people to, like break down crying or have like skyrocketing stress and anxiety, and like striving to be a professional or like highly advanced musician is a very difficult thing to do. I remember after graduating, my teacher told me that during like a certain range of years, I was the only student who never cried during a lesson. But I did, however, cry after playing, badly in a big important performance on one occasion, and I certainly was extremely nervous and insecure on many stages of my musical journey too. So no shortage of emotional difficulty along the path, but I'm not trying to say that the entire musical experience is filled with gloom and fear and incredibly monotonous repetition either, but you have to have enough perseverance and dedication to keep going through these occasional challenges and setbacks. In a way, routine practice is kind of like figuring out a puzzle or like playing a game, and it can be very interesting if you think of it that way. And when you reach a new level of playing, you feel very rewarded and satisfied after all the work you put in. So there are definitely many positive experiences you'll have too. So myself personally, I of course had to go through all the stages of learning guitar just like everybody else. I remember when I was a beginner, I had a really hard time playing a 3-string C chord like this. Just this 3-string part of a C chord. Because it was a chord that required me to curve my finger just right, and push, in just the right way on the string. If my finger was too flat, it bumps into the first string, right? You don't get to hear that note, it messes up the chord, so you have to have like just the right placement of your fingertip. And I remember struggling with that for a while, and like that was me, right? Like I was there, I had to go through the difficulties with a 3-string C chord just like everyone else, and I had to go through hundreds of other technical and mental challenges along the way too. So if I'm a decent guitar player now, it's not because of like magical natural innate ability, but more because of long-term dedication and determination to pursue the craft, and like I'm obsessed and committed enough to stick with it day after day after day. To some extent, people do have natural or innate strengths and weaknesses, I'm sure. Like it's impossible to really like prove it or like quantify it objectively, but it seems like a common sense truth that we can observe for ourselves and for others. For myself, as an example, again, like spontaneous verbal communication is a skill that does not come very naturally to me. Like if you met me in a face-to-face, like purely social setting that had nothing to do with guitar, then you would probably think I'm kind of like slow-witted or like not very impressive. And like I'm reading from notes on my computer here, obviously, so this is different. But then on the flip side, I do have the impression that guitar and music theory is something that just like clicks really naturally and easily for me in my brain and my body. And as a guitar player, there are physical considerations too. Like, I have like skeleton fingers basically. So, you do have to consider your physical capabilities with the instrument as well. But ultimately, no matter how naturally talented you are at guitar, you can still make progress and still improve over time. Like, people with a low natural ability have to obsessively practice with enormous amounts of repetition in order to improve. But people with a high natural ability for guitar also have to obsessively practice with enormous amounts of repetition too, right? And as another example of myself, like as a guitar teacher, I'm forced to verbally communicate with people all the time. And I think as a result, I'm at least a little bit more skilled and confident while talking to students than I was years ago when I first started teaching. So I can still improve in areas that are unnatural and difficult for me too. So maybe ultimately the point is, if you find guitar to be meaningful and you can dedicate consistent time and effort to it, then you'll be able to improve gradually over time. And I'm not saying that every single human on the planet is capable of being like a superstar virtuoso, but I hope you can, feel reassured about yourself, like no matter what stage of playing you're at or how seriously or casually you're approaching the instrument. Like everybody has to work hard, everybody has to be patient, everybody has struggles with the instrument. If you put in the time, if you have the right guidance and the right knowledge, then eventually you will reach moments where you have positive and emotionally rewarding experiences playing your instrument. So keep at it, don't give up. Thanks for listening, and feel free to share your own perspectives in the comments if you like. So have a nice day.